Welcome to the Fishbowl Radio, everybody. My name is Chief here, and joining me today is Jalen. We're going to be doing so we've been seeing reports on social media about Bob Marlin, and some people are even calling for his job. We're going to put all that stuff to bed in this episode here on the Fishbowl Radio, whether the Ragin Cajuns should keep Bob Marlin or get rid of him. We did a pro and con list. I spent a good bit of time researching his records and how he's doing, and we'll even look at the attendance figures because they blame attendance on Bob Marlin. So we'll see if those social media posts are just people just spewing hot air, or they actually have some legitimate claim there. So without further ado, let me introduce everybody to Jalen. How you doing today, Jalen?
I'm doing well, Chief. You know, this time of year is getting to nitty gritty in softball and baseball, and then LSU women's basketball is playing pretty great too.
Yeah, we're gonna get with the baseball stuff and the softball stuff, and we'll talk about the Kim Mulkey USA Today kind of defamation kind of thing, which we'll see how all that's going there pretty soon later on the podcast. But anyway, this Bob Marlin thing that we've been seeing educated fans post, and I'm kind of getting tired of seeing it on social media. So we did this thing about the attendance thing, and we came to find out that LSU wasn't the cause of attendance. It was just a factor of streaming because we did a really extensive, thing, really extensive research on that particular topic. And so I thought it was kind of fun to bring that back here. So you have to be honest and realistic about your program. So one thing that I would look at if you're looking at like at a program or anybody you're going to compare pros and cons to, you have to be completely honest with everybody. And that's what the Fishbowl does. We like to try to uncover everything that actually happens here. And, Magger said he's not going to make a move on Bob Marlin. So we'll see if there's anything like what the first thing you need to find out if you want to replace a coach is what's the standard of your program. Now, Jalen and I have went back and forth on this, and we've come up with about 3 or 4 things on this notebook here that we think should be the standards of UL's basketball program. Now, in today's current age, you can't compare a program that's 20 years ago because technology is different. The world's different than it was 20 years ago. You can't compare it back to 30 or 40 years ago because the world is completely different. And I think a lot of people start trying to make something that was cool 40 years ago and try to bring it back into main day, right? So, look, it's like fashion styles, right? Something that was cool in the 90s might not be cool today. You can't do the same thing over and over again and expect to have the same results because people get the ads fade out, things happen. So let's see what me and Jalen cooked up here. Now, if you disagree with us, let us know in the comments and about the standards here. So what we based our pro and con list on, because we had the records pulled up. We had the record wins and loss record for Bob Marlin. All the times he went to the NCAA tournament, the Sun Belt finishes, the regular season Sun Belt finishes. And so that's what we did. We only really based it on regular season finishes because tournament finishes, they don't really equate too much there because I like to look at the whole body of work over a small sample size because a small sample size can give you different inaccuracies with your data. So we did his whole entire career. We didn't cherry pick the last 6 years, except for one time because we had to kind of look and see if is it trending in the right direction or not. So let's see. So the standards of UL's program that me and Jalen have decided on, finish in the top 4 of Sun Belt every year and win it every 4 years. And an NCAA tournament appearance every 4 years, which is what you get automatically if you're getting an auto bid from the Sun Belt Conference. So finish in the top 4. Now, if you remember back in the early 2010s, there was 2 different divisions. There was a West and an East Side division. So the Cajuns, if you look at Bob Marlin's record here, that we're going to pull up real quick here, they finished their first 4 years 3rd or better. So we said 4th, right? So you look at these numbers here, his first 5, 6 years, he finished 4th or better in the Sun Belt. So he tied for first in the West. He didn't win it until 2013, 2014 in tournament play. So Of his 13 seasons, Bob Marlin's finished 9 of 13 times in the season over fourth or higher in the Sun Belt. So it's kind of hard to argue against that. That's a pro for him, in my opinion, because 9 of 13 times, that's a very high accurate hit rate. So that first record that you see here that we wrote down, excuse my handwriting. I write fast. I just like it's almost like chicken scratch, basically. So um, he does that. So now the every 4 years of an NCAA tournament appearance, it's kind of rough to do that at UL because it's only one bid. Now, granted, if there's multiple bids, Bob Marlin probably gets in the tournament more accurate, more frequently. It's hard to do it one bid, and you got 12, 14 teams. You're already at like 1 in 12 chance of even making that bid. So I mean, I think that kind of works in his favor because there's 14 teams going for one spot. So you look at it here, these bids right here. Every 4 years, he did it in his fourth year. In 2017, 2018 breaks my heart, huh, Jalen?
Yeah, it really does, Chief. And that year was probably the one of the greatest seasons you ever have had. I would say in probably the last 5 or 6, even up to 10 years. I think that was a great squad they had. It dominated the Sun Belt, and they ultimately lost in the Sun Belt tournament. Ended up making the NIT, but that team was full of greatness. I mean, with Malik Marquette, Bryce Washington, Frank Bartley, those guys, Jonathan Stove. I mean, that's just a great Bob Marlin squad that year.
Yeah, so the only time he really didn't do it every 4 years, well, I mean, like if you want a gap between NCAA tournament, so if you want to make that a con, I guess you can. Only two NCAA tournament appearances in 13 seasons. You could put that in a con category itself, but I'm just going to put a little asterisk next to it because like I said, one bid leagues are really hard to get into. Even if you're playing baseball, football, you try to win 13 consecutive Sun Belt titles. It's kind of like hard to do, right? So I'm gonna put it as a con right here, but I don't think I'm gonna put an asterisk next to it because it's just one bid league. It's really unfair to compare him to successes of Matt Dex or a Gary Glasgow. Now the softball program for UL is way different than the basketball program. Let's be honest here. They're consistently making regionals, and that's kind of like the comparison that you can maybe draw on this. But if it's 2 of 13 years, I gotta be kind of, combining both these. So we have one con and one pro for Bob Moreland. So um right now, okay, we got that one done. So we also decided on 17 to 20 wins every year. So during his tenure of 13 full completed seasons at UL, Bob Marlin has won 17 to 20 wins 8 times during this year. Now, some people are going to argue, well, what about the schedule? So the schedule changes every single year. Um, there's a lot of mid-major teams that might just pop up and surprise you. So it's hard to gauge how good a team's going to be in the early part of a season. Now, they might be completely garbage by the time you get to the end of the year, where, if you're just trying to compete here in the Sun Belt, it's kind of if you're not consistently winning the conference, it's kind of like there's a reason why they're scheduling so high in softball. So because educated softball team is probably going to win the Sun Belt this year. I would probably bet against that. I mean, like bet odds money. You look at the consistent consecutive wins in conference play in the softball program, trying to compare them because they're the only softball. They're the only other team at UL that has a one bid league. So you're kind of comparing them, but they were good since like the early 2000s, whereas the men's basketball program had NCAA violations in the 2003 to 2004 season, 2004 to 2005 season as well. So those got scrubbed away from the record books of NCAA. So like mid 2000s, that kind of hurts UL entering the 2010 era with Bob Marley because he's going to take this program and raise it up higher. So I'm gonna say that's a pro. I'd say that's 2 to 1 basically for Bob Marlin. I think keeping it 17 to 20 wins with that really helps out a lot there. So you got a 2 to 1. What do you think about that, Jalen?
Yeah, I think especially you hitting it with the numbers right there, and like I said, keep bringing up that like I said, that 17-18 team was really really good. But I think in terms of when it comes to the players and I think what comes to my mind is coming from this past year's team to last year's team. You know, you had Jordan Brown, who was a five-star in his own right. He had came in to the Cajuns, transformed the program, helped lead them to the tournament. I mean, it's not every day that you get five-star caliber players like that. So you got to credit the coaching staff and head coach Bob Marlin for things like that.
So 10 or above, let's see. 10 or above Sunbelt wins a year. So let's look at this here. So Bob Marlin, it's almost like at 500, kind of in Sunbelt play. He's 150 of 103 with a 59.3% winning percentage in the Sunbelt. So he, amongst his peers, he's almost got 60%. If you want to round up, he still gets like 59%, but still, that's a pretty good conference record for like a third or fourth place finish. I think that um this is the whole course of his tenure. So of all those times here, 10 or above, let's see. One, two,
Chief, I think we forgot to mention something too that I really just thought about.
what you
You
got
got to
there?
think you got to think about it too. In recent years, when they added teams like James Madison and Old Dominion, squads like that who weren't in the Sun Belt for many years, they just got recently got added.
Yeah, that I mean, like, so that does add more games to your schedule that you have to take into consideration there. So there was 11 seasons that he won 10 or more games in the Sun Belt. Now, granted, the Sun Belt isn't a great basketball conference, but with Southern Miss coming in and James Madison, and they still kind of put up, they had an opportunity there. That's not this is a young team this past year. So in the last 2 years, with all that adding and stuff going on, they still finished tied second in the regular season, and they finished fifth this year. So it's not really a terrible finish for them. I wouldn't say the least here. So look, that's a pro there. He's had, I just said it. He had like a lot of conference wins. Let's see, one, two, two and one, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, two, three. So there's only 3 years that he hasn't didn't get over 10 wins in a conference play. So I think if you're like kind of matching that there, just looking like I said, you can't compare 1970 to 2024. It doesn't work that way, no matter how much you talk about it or whatever. So um yeah, I think he does get a third pro there because he's keeping the program up there and getting these conference wins. Now, I'm not gonna come out like I'm not a fanboy, like I might get criticized for being. This is just the data and the records support all this. So we even looked at attendance records because they say that, oh, attendance is down under Bob Marlin. Well, like I said, we went look at attendance records since 2012, 2013 years to 2023 to 2024. So I mean, it's just kind of funny. Like this stuff's kind of funny to get people all talking about it and stuff. So we say that we need to have a 3,000 average attendance every year. So the transfer portal is going to do some weird things here. It's going to probably hurt. It's going to kill mid majors probably, because everyone's winning a championship. It's like the NBA with super teams. They kind of were the first one to do it. You'll see with college football too, probably at some point. So 3,000. There's only three times in his whole entire that we were able to go back for record keeping because UL's website wouldn't let us go back to past 2012, 2013, 2010, 2011. It was not existent on their website. So, maybe if you think that UL maybe falsified attendance records or whatever during that time, that's the data that they're giving to the public. So that's the most we can actually use it here. We can't just make up numbers. So from what we gather from UL's website, there's three different times that he did not get attendance above 3,000. So I'm gonna give him another pro. So that's four pros for one con. So the 2 of 13 thing, that's his only con so far. His second con that I'm gonna bring up here. So if you look like I say, cherry picking stats, this one's kind of like that a little bit. But this I think it's important to kind of look at this because if you look at the recent seasons that he's had over the regular season, the last 6 seasons, he's only finished better than fifth twice in the Sun Belt. So, like I said, we talk about every 4 years. So there's only 2 times that he finished better than fifth. So the numbers don't lie to you. This is something that's there. This is fact-based information that you cannot hide. So I say that's a con, but yeah, I would say with this data points and this data entry and everything else like that, this is four pros to 2 cons. I just don't see why you would get rid of Bob Marlin because the data backs up that point there. I know it's not going to be a popular opinion with some fans of the Raging Cajun Nation, but you, you just you just can't argue with the numbers. You can argue about strength of schedule, but they're getting over 500 the majority of the time, so it's not far to even. I just seen it a lot on social media. Thought it'd be kind of interesting to talk about. So now that that's out of the way, let's get down to some actual like what's actually going on right now. That was kind of a fun conversation we had. What you think about all those numbers though, Jalen? While we switch gears here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think the numbers, like you said, the numbers don't lie. I think he should continue to be the Cajuns head basketball coach because I mean, not last year they made it to the tournament. The year before that, and you're adding, you said those they've only finished fifth or higher twice within the last 6 years. Well, then again, you got to think about almost 2 years ago when they were an 8 seed in the Sun Belt tournament, they made it to the championship game and almost won it. So it just goes to show you that he's able to get the best out of his guys, and like you said, the numbers don't lie.
Yeah, like look, that would have been one like maybe that tournament bid would have been the one that they should have got back in 2017, 2018 season. So look, they almost went back to the back to back in the NCAA tournament, but that's just, I think fans are just blowing hot air and look, sometimes you just gotta let it decompress and kind of like look, you gotta be realistic with your program. You can have high expectations for your program, but is it realistically able to meet those? You got to look at your area around you. You got to look at your support system, and you got to look at all this kind of stuff before you start this naming stuff like we should be in the NCAA tournament every year. It just, like what have you done, right, to get to
It
that point,
doesn't. It doesn't work that way. And I'm gonna say this too, and you mentioned it earlier. The Sun Belt is a one bid league. I could see if we got two, three bids, then a conversation would be completely different. But it's one bid. You win the Sun Belt tournament, you get in the NCAA tournament. You can have the worst season in the world, and you win that Sun Belt tournament, you get in the big dance. So it's a lot of factors that go into it that I think a lot of people just don't either understand or they don't want to grasp.
Yeah, like I mean, if you just don't like a person, you'll say anything to get rid of them. So I mean, look, that's just all it comes down to. I mean, look, I know he's kind of a polarizing figure to some fans, but that's just the way it is. We're the fitful. We uncover everything that y'all trying to throw. There's some things that we're like, okay, let's take a look at this. This is one thing we take a look at, and that's kind of our investigative piece, I guess you could say. But look, if y'all disagree with the standards of the UL program, let us know in the comments because I would like to hear what y'all got to say. So look, let's go down and talk about baseball. Baseball is looking pretty good. Uh, especially the last 10 games, 9-1. RPI of 62. Need to get that number down a little bit more, but it's looking pretty good because you're going to have a pretty good schedule here. Good sweep today of Old Dominion. Be able to capitalize it. They won 2 of 3 against Arkansas State. That was their last game they lost, which was on March 15th, was their last loss. This week coming up, they got Grambling and they go on the road to Texas State. So now, how RPI works here with the away games here is you don't get hurt as bad if you lose on the road. You get heavily penalized more than if you lose at home. So we're gonna watch RPI more. Like we're gonna definitely keep an eye on it and see where these numbers kind of reflect and how they portray each other. So San Marcos, Texas State's 14-10 so far this year. They have an RPI of 76. The Cajuns are a little bit higher than them, not too much, but winning this series will go a long way. I think for the Cajuns here, Texas State usually has a pretty good baseball program as well here than their next like series against Marshall. So and not Marshall, they have ULM then Marshall. My bad. Uh, so with Texas State, I think the Cajuns weak Grambling this midweek game. They're 6-13, but this game against Old Dominion on Saturday, they Cajuns really opened it up. They had 13 runs on 14 hits. So the Cajuns are seem like they're getting hot right now, which kind of worries me a little bit because it's all about getting hot at the right time. Maybe this is just a medium heat setting, and maybe they're going to take it up a notch here. But look, Old Dominion had a pretty good run with like hitting the ball that RPI of 79. They had a pretty good offense of ball club here. So kind of interesting to see that they didn't really score that many runs. They only scored one run in the last three games against the Cajuns. So Cajun pitching definitely kept them. Their most hits they had in the game was today. They had 5 hits. So that's something to kind of look at here as we go ahead forward here. But the Cajun pitching seems like they're really starting to gel together and really starting to kind of like get it together. So if they can keep this up and keep doing what they're doing, they're going to be very good to beat. But it's how long can you keep that consistent pitching to keep your opponents off the scoreboard to see what's going on. So, you know, Texas State, they're coming off a series win against James Madison and App State. So they're 4-2 so far. They beat a 27 RPI ranked James Madison. So that's something we're going to look at and see. They won a 14-13 game against UTSA. But so far this year, Sam Houston, they got swept by Sam Houston. They beat Texas and they beat Houston, but Texas has kind of really been on the ropes lately. They're 15-9 so far. They kind of lost a couple since that tournament there. So it'll be interesting to see how the Cajuns do here. I'm gonna go with the Cajuns winning 2 or 3 against Texas State. I think they'll better go into San Marcos and really get it. Don't think they're gonna sweep them. I think they'll get a series win. Give me 2 or 3 for the Cajuns. What you thinking, Jalen?
Yeah, I'm thinking that also 2 or 3 for the Cajuns against Texas State. But I mean, they're on a hot win streak right now, winning 7 straight, 5-1 in conference play. I mean, the Cajuns are playing great. Their hitters are hitting the ball. The pitching has gotten a lot better throughout the course of the season. I know before they go into San Marcos, they have to take on Grambling. I think they'll get that win. And taking 2 or 3 against Texas State, who knows? They could surprise us and go 3 or 3 against Texas State. But I think they're playing great ball right now. They just need to keep it up. Keep it up. They just need 2 more months of great baseball, and who knows what's gonna happen when that Sun Belt tournament come and the big dance is right around the corner.
So this is gonna be an interesting next 2 series for Raging Cajun softball. They got App State. They're gonna go on the road to Boone, North Carolina. Then James Madison's gonna come to Lampson Park. So this will be interesting here. So App State RPI is 144. I think the Cajuns sweep App State. I don't see sweeps on the road are hard. Worst case scenario, 2 or 3. But look, Gary Glasgow put a tough schedule for his team. Second highest strength of schedule in the country. So that's something that you're going to look at and see what is going on, right? So they played a really tough schedule. They're 8-12 against quadrant one record in RPI. I just think that they sweep App State because they're 7-1 against quadrant two. Odds are they get the sweep here. RPI of 19. They're close to hosting, I think. But here's the problem. I think their 12 losses against quadrant one kind of hurts them. They beat Cal once. They lost to Cal. Them lost against Mississippi State, which they ended up being top 25 ranked. Baylor's ranked number 13. Stanford and Texas 6-3. You know, if they could have won one of those games, like I said, I think it would have made a big difference against one of those programs. And the win against Oklahoma, huge. They might get a host because of that win. That might be the most significant win of the season for them. Now, what they need to do is beat LSU. We did make an error. I did say LSU last week. It was my fault. I didn't quite check the records and the schedules and stuff that well. I went down too far. My fault. But anyway, App State. I think they'll beat App State. I think they'll sweep. What you thinking, Jalen?
Yeah, I think they'll sweep App State also. I think after coming on the series sweep against Coastal Carolina, especially in game 2 when they beat them 13-0. I think the softball team is playing just as well as the baseball team, if not even better. And I think that 6-0 record in conference play, they look to continue that, look to build on that as they head to Boone, North Carolina, coming up with this next series. But also, like you said, I think those those losses, quadrant one losses, are really can be huge at the end when it gets to who NCAA picks who gets to host. But I think also some of the great wins that they had. I mean, right there, beating up. I think beating Oklahoma, and we talked about this before. Like you beat Oklahoma, you deserve everything because it's the best team in the nation for the last who knows how many years. So beating Oklahoma and only losing so far on this to what it was Louisiana Tech, I think that's who it was they lost to in a close one, and then winning every other game since. I think the Cajun softball team is on a great run. They just need to keep this on.
Yeah, and some news that from the roster news, Jordan Campbell left the Raging Cajun softball program, so hopefully that she everything's okay with her, like talking about like a mental break basically, or like something like that. So we have the post on her Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter pages, or X, Twitter or X. I mean, it's whatever you want to call it. Just go on there and you can read what she had to say here on the football radio. So anyway, so App State, I think a sweep happens there. So we'll see what happens with all that there. So let's switch over to the other side across the basin. Um, LSU. LSU women's basketball, Kim Mulkey. We got to talk about some defamation issues here. So the Washington Post, what Kim Mulkey's saying is trying to post some false allegations against her, trying to get former teammates and stuff to go out toward that way. Look, I don't know if she's got something to hide. I don't know if what the reporter has actual fact-based information. Look, like I said, we got shady people in every kind of industry. You got, shady bankers, you got shady car salesmen, it's just you trying to figure out, is this credible or is this not credible that they might put out, they might not. And she's got the best, she said, I got the best defamation lawsuit in the entire country. So we'll see what happens. There's not many people in my position that can actually do this kind of thing. So we'll see what happens. Maybe it's kind of a weird timing of it, I guess you would say, to even bring it up because it is the NCAA tournament. Maybe, it's kind of the timing of it's weird and it kind of seems like kind of fishy to me a little bit towards why you want to do it because the most eyeballs are on Kim Mulkey right now. So to bring up that information to get a timely hit piece seems kind of weird. It does seem kind of like I said, if you're gonna bring something against somebody, you gotta have all your eggs in the basket, and you better make sure they don't get all messed up. So, Jalen, what you think about this defamation story, possible defamation story? Excuse me.
I think, and I think I feel like a lot of people also might feel it's kind of a distraction to this LSU women's team, especially they won a championship last year. Kim Mulkey had a great first year with the team, and they're trying to repeat. And I mean, it's just if the I would say if the reporter has the facts, then we'll see what happens. But as of right now, Kim Mulkey is saying that like, hey, like I have the best lawyers in the world. You're not about to get me or this team or this university for saying false stuff about her. And she's also said that the same reporter went after Brian Kelly, the LSU head football coach, and also he's been, like you said, trying to get players from the past to say negative things about Kim Mulkey. It sounds like to me so far this reporter is coming at Kim Mulkey for unknown reasons. But until we get to the nitty gritty, and I feel like that might not happen to after the season is over with. Like the reporter, we'll see. We'll just have to see what happens because I feel like they're going come after Kim Mulkey for no reason, but we don't know all the facts yet, so I can't say that 100%. But I mean, I think the whole thing is really a distraction to not only LSU, to not only I think it's a distraction to the fans because we just want to watch some women's basketball in the tournament. And to be honest, some of these women's games have been better than some of the men. So I mean,
Yeah, I would agree with that. So about the game today, LSU beat Middle Tennessee to advance to the Sweet 16. The first half, LSU struggled. It was not a very good figure for them for sure. Well, more in the second quarter technically. So if you look at LSU, they were able to get the free throw line, and that really helped them out for the majority of the game because they shot very well today in the second half. So if you look at the first quarter shooting, they were 8 of 17 from the floor. Angel Reese played very well. She got another double-double. Flau'jae Johnson played very well herself there. So look, man, like it was a very good time for them. LSU really broke it open in really fourth quarter here. Points from turnovers was a huge implication in the game here. LSU had 22 points off of turnovers to Middle Tennessee's 4 points here. Middle Tennessee got in foul trouble early in the game, and that really hurt them as well. So if you look at the first quarter, LSU was shooting 47%, so they had got out to a little bit of a lead. Second quarter, 31%. Then you go to the second half of the third and fourth quarter included in that. They shot 40%. They got kind of back to their first from the floor. And then fourth quarter, they shot 5 of 7. They shot 71% here. Haley Van Lith did get benched a little bit during this game, then got back out there. But I think it actually ignited a spark because they were not game planned for that to her to get benched. And I think that was a great call by Kim Mulkey to actually do that kind of thing there. So it was interesting, man. Like it was a very energized game. They had a crowd of 12,000, over 12,000 people over there in the PMAX. So they're gonna go up to Albany, New York after that to take on the winner of either Creighton or UCLA. So we'll find that out tomorrow who they're gonna play against and update our social media channels when that does happen. So um we'll see what happens there. I think regardless, I think if LSU can keep the run they had and really drive it down into the goal, I think they can make a Elite Eight run to the Elite Eight and maybe and even make it to the Final Four. Now it's going to depend on what happens in the other parts of the bracket, who they actually get there. So we'll see. I think LSU does pick up the win. What you thinking, Jalen?
Yeah, after beating Middle Tennessee, I think I think LSU can beat either UCLA or Creighton. But the thing I see about this women's team, Chief, is that like outside of the starters, I mean, if it isn't for last tier poll, outside of that, I mean, where's LSU gonna get the depth from? You know, if somebody play like Reese or Morrow getting foul trouble, like it's hard for LSU to get pieces off the bench to actually to contribute. And adding that to the discussion we just had with distractions like going on with the team, I think that'll actually motivate this team more. But I do see them making a Final Four run. I mean, I think they'll end up playing Iowa, Caden Clark and them in the Final Four or the trip. Or
Elite
I know
Eight, yeah.
Iowa was in the Elite Eight. I know Iowa was in the same bracket, so they could eventually even play them. But not trying to get too far ahead of the curve here, but I wouldn't sleep on especially a UCLA team who is ranked number 2 in this region ahead of LSU. We can't forget about that. So the women team, they're playing good. I'm not gonna say great. I mean, they've had their struggles. I mean, turnover prone the first game, this game. Haley Van Lith really struggled, like you said. She ended up getting benched. Reese in the 2011 game, Anissa Morrow 19-13. So I think the bigs are doing their thing. The guards, Flau'jae had 21. So I think it's a well balanced offense. They're better defensively. They just have to they can't go down in games. I feel like they with their depth and the way the team has been playing all season. I don't think they're a team that could come back from a 10-point deficit when it gets to the nitty gritty of a basketball game.
So I'm thinking that so they if Haley Van Lith can get going, this team makes the Final Four. If she can just because Michaela Williams is playing well, Flau'jae Johnson's playing well, Anissa Morrow is playing well. Like they're all playing well, but they need Van Lith to get going because that would give them another weapon on that outside there. And last tier Poe had to come in and they kind of move people around at that point there. And you know what? I think it helped LSU honestly. So it seemed like the perfect time to do that move. But we'll see what happens there. I think LSU does end up getting past UCLA or Creighton here as they come into the weekend. But we'll see what happens here. Dave's gonna get a 2 or a 7 seed. So we'll see what happens here. If they can win, they'll play April 1st, April Fool's Day on Monday for a trip to the Final Four. And then that'll be April 5th through the 7th. So we'll see what happens with all that as we come closer to that. So Now, next here, we're going to talk about LSU baseball and LSU softball. Just kind of keeping up to date with them. LSU had a series loss to Florida, which hurt their RPI, and it dropped them down 6-35. So far, LSU's baseball pitching, honestly, it's been struggling here. LSU hasn't won a single SEC opener. Jay Johnson got tossed, and there were some words exchanged between Jones and Florida's first baseman, and it was kind of an ugly game to kind of watch. Florida blew them away today, 12-2. But it's like LSU, they won Friday night, then they gave up 13 hits today, and then the second game they gave up 8, and they ended up losing that one. They actually hit Florida in Saturday's game 11-8, and they still lost. So timely hitting needs to be addressed with LSU. If they can get their timely hitting down, they would be a lot better ball club. This year, it like I said, might be a championship hangover so far, but they got to get it together because they got their next 2 series are against 2 top 3 teams here, number 1 Arkansas and number 3 Vanderbilt. So they're gonna have to figure out how to win these games here. They got Southeastern in between them. Maybe a good tune-up game for them. I think if they could beat Southeastern, I just don't see them beating Arkansas from what I've seen the SEC play so far. So give me Arkansas winning 2 of 3 against LSU as LSU goes on the road. Take them on. Who you got, Jalen?
Yeah, I think I would give the Tigers the win against Southeasterns, but when it comes to series and Fayetteville against Arkansas, I I don't know. I have faith in this Tigers team. I really do. I think they're gonna take 2 or 3 against the Arkansas team, but I'm not 100% confident. I mean, they lost 2 straight. They're 2-4 in conference play. I mean, the team that won the championship last year, they're really just struggling right now, honestly. Like looking at the whole season, I think this team thought they would have been better than this at this point, but I still think it is kind of a little early, still close to the end of March, coming into April. But I think they'll take 2 or 3 against Arkansas because they need to go on a run. They need to go on a run, and it needs to be like right now.
Yeah. Another team that's kind of somewhat struggling, somewhat is LSU softball. Even though they did win today, kind of helped them out a little bit. They they lost the series against Ole Miss, lost the series against Missouri. They didn't get swept, thank God. But ever since that big win against Texas, they've been kind of like I don't know what's going on. They swept Missouri. It's been kind of a weird trend here. They've only won out of their last 10 games. LSU is 6-4, so they're kind of cold right now, but they had a hot run to the year. So I mean, it's kind of hard. At some point, we're wondering how long it was going to last. They got Nicholas coming in midweek. I think they'll win that one. They're going to go to Thibodeau. They're going to host Texas A&M. Texas A&M's only lost 4 times this year. I think they'll get it back though. I do think that LSU does find something here and then the winning this. I think they got good pitching and they got a really solid defense here. If they can just get everything strung together and be able to figure out what their weak points are, I think they got a good chance. So give me 2 or 3 against Texas A&M. Who you got, Jalen?
Yeah, I'm gonna give the Tigers the win against Nichols, and I think they will take 2 or 3 against Texas A&M at Tiger Park. I mean, it's crazy because we're saying like how, and I agree with you. We're saying like how the LSU softball team is really struggling, but it's crazy. They were the last undefeated team in the NCAA, and they lost 4 straight. 2 of them to no, not 2 of them. Yeah, 2 of them. 2 of them to Ole Miss, and then 2 of them to Missouri, and they ended up winning Game 3 against Missouri, but. Um, I think for this team, I'm not gonna say the losing streak motivated them, but at the same time, it kind of opened their eyes to be like, okay, so now we're not undefeated no more. We lost 4 straight. Yeah, we picked up that win against Missouri. Now we need to get things back right.
Thank you for that, Jalen. And if you like any of all this other stuff that we covered during this episode, leave a comment and a like and share it across Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or even YouTube. Thank y'all for tuning in here to the Fishbowl Radio. We hope you have a great and wonderful time here. We'll see y'all here next time here on the Fishbowl Radio.